Kingston is a neighborhood in Philadelphia that belongs to the lower northeast. As with all neighborhoods in the city, the lack of any official destination means the boundaries of the area varies between sources over time and is disputed among locals. The adjacent Fairhill and Norris Square neighborhoods are more separate. Kingston is a low-income and working-class area and an experienced increase in poverty after the loss of the industries in the 1960s, which led to high abandonment in some sections of the neighborhood. Kingston is home to a large population of Hispanic Americans, mainly Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, as well as African American and Irish Americans as well. The Polish community is starting to grow, as well as the Asian community. In the past few years, Kingston has been through the process of gentrification, primarily white young urban professionals. In recent years, Kingston has experienced increasing social issues, primarily related to drug abuse. Sections of the neighborhood are frequent by a significant number of people experience drug addiction or experience homelessness. After the mayor put pressure on the local police department, they decided to break up all the camps on the abandoned railroad track on Lee Avenue, but several smaller camps were set up right around the corner. After a year and a half of going back and forth with the campers, they decided to leave the railroad tracks and just spread up the whole Kingston Avenue. The neighborhood has gained nationwide attention and great notoriety because of the extensive press coverage, often described as the largest on the East Coast. The intersection of Kingston Avenue and Somerset was listed as number 1 in 2007 on the top 10 recreational drug corners, according to an article by Philadelphia Weekly reporter Steve Vogt. It is also known as the area of prostitution as well. I gave you the history of Kingston so you can understand their environment that the K&A Gang grew up in. The K&A Gang is an Irish American organized crime association known for the distribution of methamphetamine in the 1980s. Over time, Black and Hispanic street dealers took over larger portions of the drug trade, especially heroin, fentanyl, and crack cocaine. From the post-war, in the 1950s to the 1970s, members of the network were tied to burglaries and theft operations along the East Coast. While most of their work was around the Philadelphia area, their favorite target was the wealthy residents of the Jewish suburbs, which would be the livelihood of the group's many years. One of their strict strategies was to never carry weapons while they burglarized. This was largely due to the liability of the increased jail time if caught with a firearm. They also traded in the cliche burglary attire for professional suits in case they were stopped. In those days, there were no hierarchy structure in the gang. There were just several key members who held influence. By the late 1970s, with the evolution of home security, the burglary gang was at a standstill. With the rise of the drug culture in the 1980s, Frank the Beard and John Carley had close ties with Angelo Bruno and Raymond Monterio of the Philadelphia crime family. It was through this influence that the K&A Gang would expand their empire, establishing a foothold in the Northeast. In 1983, Philadelphia was named the meth capital of the world, according to a statement published by the Association Press. Through informants and a long investigation, a methamphetamine indictment was handed down with 14 counts on January 3rd, 1982, but Berkeley fled to Ireland to avoid prosecution. He had connection in the Irish Republican Army and spent 5 years on the run until he was captured in June 1987. He eventually took a plea and confessed of his drug operation, but due to the CCE, he was sentenced to life in prison. The CCE is an abbreviation for the Continued Criminal Enterprise Law, other known as the Drug Kingpin Statute. Carl Better Days Jackson took over the gang when Berkeley got locked up. But his reign wouldn't last for long. Just a few weeks later, he was booked on a CCE charge as well. It stated in FBI documents that within that week, he gained $4 million in drug profits alone, along with Carl Jackson and Frank. 22 other affiliates was arrested as well. The FBI believed that they produced roughly $10 million worth of meth in hidden labs throughout Pennsylvania. They were said to have manufactured 100 pounds of meth at a time. Edward Dennis, the U.S. state attorney at the time, claimed the gang was one of the largest methamphetamine organizations in the nation. Roy Stacker, a longtime loyal associate, filled the shoes of the bosses when the gang was indicted. Stacker brokered a deal with Scarfo, the Philadelphia crime boss, in order to operate throughout Philly, using his name as protection. The FBI is always watching, and once they see that your plate is too full, they're coming for you. In February 1991, Roy Stacker and 3 other associates were picked up for running a $52 million methamphetamine operation between 1981 and 1987. After Stacker got locked up, the gang structure collapsed. Everybody was in jail, and the members that were left did their own thing. The Scarfo crew were indicted as well for unrelated charges, so Kingston was wide open.